Today, Rolls-Royce and Bentley will redefine what a luxury EV is. Those cars are going to be coming soon. We talk about Porsche, and the Macan has been caught testing in the Arctic Circle, but looking pretty production ready, so it can't be long before that car is out. It's going to be a really big deal for Porsche. And Panasonic are getting ready to test production of their so-called Tesla batteries, the 4680 cells, sooner than I thought. And also, not at Nevada, their joint project with Tesla, and I'll tell you why that is if you keep watching. Those stories and many, many more coming up today on the podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening or watching around the world. Welcome to EV News Daily. My name is Martin Lee, and it's my job to go through every EV story in the world so you don't have to. I'm here to save you time. Well, we'll start with this amazing story from Norway, and that is their EV sales in January were through the roof EV share. 9 out of 10 cars had a plug socket on the side. 83.7%, we'll call it 84%, were full BEV. 83.7% full battery electric vehicle. It's an amazing stat. The numbers are so special, pointing in many directions that it's going to be, as far as you can predict, a handful of combustion cars sold in that country every year for particularly niche reasons. 19 of the top 20 models were indeed plug-in vehicles, and for the first time ever, the Porsche Taycan on its own outsold all petrol and diesel cars. Just petrol cars, I think. What an amazing stat that is. Sales of pure petrol and diesel, 387. That's crazy. 387 in the month. In January alone, the Taycan sold 181, petrol cars 175. That's amazing. Anyway, well done Norway. By far and away, the most popular model in that country is the Model 3. Last month, 48th place. Why? The ships don't always arrive. The quicker that Tesla can get Berlin open, the better, because it smooths out all of that up and down of whenever the ships arrive. It's number one, and then all of a sudden it's nowhere, 48th in the month. And so nothing really of Tesla to talk about, but plenty to talk about if you look at the actual numbers, the actual sales by model in the month of January. Number one, Audi Q4 e-tron, followed by the Ioniq 5, BMW iX, Skoda Enyaq, VW ID4, Mustang Mach-E, Kia EV6, Audi e-tron, Toyota RAV4. That could be the RAV4 Prime, but I think if it was, it would say Prime. So I'm guessing that is the lone petrol car. Number 10, Polestar 2, then the Leaf, Mercedes-Benz EQA, EQC, Peugeot 2008, the Taycan, the Hongqi HS9, the Volvo C40, the Kia e-Niro, and the Hyundai Kona Electric. That is and the VW ID3. Those are the top 20 cars in Norway. Just amazing, incredible stats. But what about people saying, well, look, you can't drive EVs in the extreme cold. They're okay, but you need diesel for those outlying cases. Well, 80% of all new cars in January in the area known as Finnmark, Norway's northernmost region, is pure electric. Finnmark is the world's northernmost dealership region. There are now 24 fast charging stations in the area. The maximum distance between them is 100 kilometers, and the EV stats are 80% of all new car sales there. The fast chargers they've got are between 50 and 250 kilowatts. Back in 2015, the Finnmark EV share was 3%. Then it was 11, then 23, then 34 last year, and now in January, 4 out of 5 new cars sold had no combustion engine in at all. Just from that, this is one of the coldest places that cars are driven, down to crazy low minus 35 temperatures. And people are buying EVs, because of course they are. Right, moving on. Keep your coat on, though, because we're staying in the cold weather. A one-off designed Polestar 2 has been commissioned by Polestar. The rally driver, the trophy-winning rally driver, Joachim Ridholm, said that he joined part of the team to create this one-off Polestar 2 to do some Arctic weather testing. They took a dual-motor long-range version. They raised the ride height, they increased the power, increased the torque, custom-made some 19-inch studded winter tyres, changed the performance dampers supplied by the Swedish company Öland. They were tweaked as well. They're 30% softer than the road-going Polestar 2. All to do with Polestar's intense winter testing program. They do it annually, 15 weeks from December to March, where engineers take these cars out and put them to the limit. So, yeah, you can't drive an EV when it's cold, though. Right? Yeah, I wouldn't bother getting one. All right, let's move on. Hey, keep your coat on. We're staying in the cold weather. The Porsche Macan has been spied doing winter testing. As with the Taycan, Porsche are looking to release their next model, and it's going to be by the look of the pictures, pretty production ready. I don't think we're a long way from finally getting a date in the diary for when the Macan's going to be out. Now, the Taycan has sold well, selling more than the legendary 911, for instance. The Macan is where Porsche do some decent numbers, by the way. Very, very popular vehicle. And we know it's going to be based the same as its sibling, the Q6 e-tron. That's going to be the Audi on the same platform, VW's PPE, Premium Platform Electric. So 800 volts. Great charging, 700 horsepower probably, dual motor, no doubt. And so I'll pop a link to driving.ca in the notes, the show notes, so you can read more. And now let's talk about luxury EVs. Rolls-Royce Spectre has been spied. It's a coupe. The Spectre features a more aerodynamically efficient shape than a typical Rolls-Royce, which makes sense given the electric powertrain, drag being a big killer of range. Split headlights on the Spectre to reduce a bit of visual weight on the front end, writes motorauthority.com. They say the Spectre will utilise a version of the Rolls-Royce aluminium space frame platform that we saw in the Phantom. It's probably going to be BMW's 5th gen EV technology, so 120 kilowatt hours on the battery, 400 miles on a charge, and it will, of course, redefine luxury when a Rolls-Royce goes EV. Are you going to buy one? Probably not. Am I going to buy one? Definitely not. But the point of the EV market expanding is so exciting because it's these edge kind of niche cases, if you like, that means the market's maturing. And that's what makes me really, really excited. Okay, coming up on the podcast very soon, we're going to be talking about the US Post Office buying gas-powered trucks. Should they be? And why Visa is getting into the EV arena and calling for payments to be made a lot more simple. You can't disagree with that. Stick around. Those stories are indeed on the way. Now, though, let's talk about another really interesting story today, and that is Panasonic testing production of the so-called Tesla batteries, the 4680 batteries. Panasonic is renovating a facility in Japan to start testing mass production of their new lithium-ion batteries, the form factor championed by Tesla as the key to unlocking cheaper vehicles, says this report today. The 4680 production site is going to be close to Panasonic's corporate headquarters in Osaka, allowing it to easily dispatch engineers to fine-tune the machinery, and it won't be at Giga Nevada alongside their partner Tesla. This is according to a Yahoo Finance article that we find here today. The 4680 batteries, named after the dimensions of the battery, 46 millimeter diameter by 80 millimeter in the height, holds more than 5 times the capacity of the smaller batteries that Tesla use, like the 18650s, the 2170s. So fewer cells, fewer parts, and of course some challenges with that in terms of the thermal management of the battery. Now, Panasonic has said they will be selling these cells to other EV makers and not just Tesla. But they said, and I quote, "We'll first prioritize supplying Tesla once the verifications are complete." Now, that's interesting because I thought that'd be an exclusive contract. And also what's really interesting is all we're talking about here is the form factor, the physical dimensions of the outer casing. What goes inside the secret sauce of which, that was the point of Battery Day, not to only talk about this new form factor, because that's a press release. They had a whole Battery Day to talk about how Tesla are going to produce their own cells. That's key. And so I speculated straight after that whether other companies would make 4680 cells and whether that would be in a licensing deal. So Tesla say, here's the cell, here's the chemistry, here's how we want you to make it. You go and make it, we'll buy some from you. Or whether Tesla say, here are the parameters, we want a cell this size delivering this performance. You work out how to go and create a battery that does that. So no answers to that question at the moment. Now, Volkswagen are next in the news. They will be able to build 1 million EVs a year in China in 2023. The CEO of Volkswagen passenger cars brand, Ralph Brandstätter, telling Nikkei on yesterday, boosted by a new plant in the Anhui province. The plant is a joint venture with China's Anhui Jinhuai Automobile Company. Announced back in 2019, it will produce 300,000 electric cars a year. Production starts next year. They've also got joint ventures with FAW and SAIC. VW will have 1 million vehicle production capacity in China. I'll just remind you, they sold about 70,000 ID cars in China last year. So what they sold, production capacity, Quite different at the minute. So good luck to VW of China. Clearly, they're going to have a load of production and not using it all to sell in China. Of course, you've got there before me if you're already doing the thinking. The export capabilities of VW China are going to be huge. If they're selling that few cars in China, but they can make 1 million cars from next year, yeah, we'll see which export markets are chosen to have those China-made cars. Hasn't hurt. BMW making the iX3 there. Certainly hasn't hurt Tesla having their main export hub in China. Next, we'll talk Rivian and the R1T and the fast charging performance, which isn't quite peak rate. Rivian claims the R1T can withstand peak charge rates of 220 kilowatts on a fast enough DC fast charger, and with an over-the-air update will hit 300 kilowatts. But, writes Car and Driver, who had an R1T for a test on this, they didn't quite get those speeds. As seen in our fast charging test, they write, they went from 10 to 90% on a R1T launch edition. The battery pack is 128.9 kilowatt hours, and it could only take 185 kilowatts of peak charge rate. Stayed for about a minute, about 25% on the charge curve, and then it fell to 90 kilowatts. Then it went up to 117 at around 50% state of charge, says Car and Driver. Now, the Rivian took 72 minutes to go to 90%, 10 to 90%. 72 minutes is quite a long time, but they did get 117 kilowatt hours into the battery, but it is behind the average charge rate. Now, the average charge rate over that entire charging session was 97.5 kilowatts, less than a Model S Plaid, which is 125, less than an Audi e-tron, 121, less than a Porsche Taycan 4S, 118 kilowatts average. So, maybe it's an early vehicle, not a pre-production vehicle, but maybe Rivian still got some work to do tweaking the software. Wait and see. Car and Driver saying that all of their tests are done on a 350 kilowatt Electrify America DC high-powered charger at Ann Arbor, Michigan, near their headquarters. Next, we'll talk about the Ford F-150 Lightning powering your home. Now, if you are in a power cut situation, using your vehicle to power your home is going to be amazing. However, if the people fixing whatever it is at the end of your street that caused the power cut all of a sudden have that grid re-energized, which it will be if you're feeding power back into it, they're going to get a few hundred volts up their bum, and that's going to be a pretty bad day. So if we're going to use vehicles to feed into the grid, it's why the technology has to be safe and secure to ensure that your house gets isolated from the grid in the event of a power cut. It's why Tesla's Powerwall home system is highly recommended, like all these home battery systems, because they're permanent installations rather than just plugging in your car. But Ford have announced their partnership with Sunrun. Now, Sunrun is going to be their charging interface, their wall box, and that'll be used to get energy out of the vehicle in terms of home power backup with no manual intervention. It'll do it intelligently. That's Ford's preferred home charging partner for the F-150 Lightning. It'll flow power both ways through the 80 amp charger, and it's a safe way to do it. Get a proper installation, and that way the grid is safe. Now, let's talk Tesla. Disabling full self-driving Beta's rolling stop feature with a new update. You're looking for version 10.10 if you are as part of that beta program. Tesla started rolling out an over-the-air software update to remove that feature, says Teslarati, as deemed by the NHTSA as a driving behaviour that may increase the risk of collisions. It remains to be seen how long it would take Tesla to update their fleet to the new software, since there are 60,000 drivers now as part of that program, says Teslarati. Disabling rolling stop functionality in all FSD profiles is how Tesla writes it in their release notes. Tesla say this behavior used to allow the vehicle to roll through all-way stop intersections, but only when several conditions were met, including vehicle speed less than 5.6 miles an hour, no relevant objects, pedestrians, bicyclists detected, sufficient visibility, and all entering roads at the intersection have speed limits below 30 miles an hour. So, a lot of conditions needed to be met, but still, I see it from both sides of the story. If you're going to have an automated system that is essentially binary because it's a computer program, you can't have it behave like humans, and humans are bad drivers. And if there's no police car behind you and it's a stop sign and you roll through it, you're not going to get in trouble. You just can't have a computer deciding it's going to be fine. It's got to be either or. Either computers abide by the rules and the laws that are on the roads, or they don't. And at the minute, the way we're working out how autonomy is gonna work, you have to play by the rules. And so it's the age-old question. If you are going to do that, why on earth can cruise control systems go faster than the road you're on? I mean, it's either or, right? So if you're going to have a cruise control system that can go faster than the speed limit, what's wrong with rolling stops? Because one's breaking the law, one's not. So, I don't know. It's really a complicated issue, and it's not as simple as taking a side. If you're a fan of Tesla or whatever reason you don't like Tesla, people take sides. But it's, as always, it's shades of grey. It's not black and white. This one is black and white, this next story. The US Post Office is now buying gas-powered trucks. A senior House Democrat called on Wednesday for the resignation of Louis DeHoy, the Postmaster General, saying that he flouted Biden's plan to electrify the federal fleet by placing a new multi-billion-dollar order for gas-powered vehicles. This is really very, very not cool, America. The NewYorkTimes.com writing today that the average size of the postal fleet is 30 years, spewing pollution. They're gas guzzling, and there's no question we have to replace the fleet. It's a once-in-a-generation opportunity to take the EV route. And the Postmaster General deciding, nah, it's all right, we'll buy some diesel ones or some combustible ones. Mr. Connolly calling for an oversight hearing to examine the contract between the government and Oshkosh Defence. Both the EPA getting involved now, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the White House Council on Environmental Quality also writing to Mr. DeHoy yesterday to say they've made the wrong decision to buy gas-powered trucks. If this is, hey, American viewers, help me out with this. If this is public money, how can one person override the president? Like, if this is public money, and all of a sudden someone decides in the White House, no, let's not buy any more petrol-powered trucks. There's enough people making, you've got Rivian making a commercial vehicle, you've got GM's Bright Drop, you've got more as well. There are ones that you could go to. They are on the roads right now, and buy them? I don't know. I don't understand it. Like many things in politics. So let's move on. Visa is calling for a standardised payment system, interoperable and seamless with EV charging. Oh, Visa. You're only getting on board with this now. Anyone who's an EV driver consuming this podcast will be well aware of this. But anyway, it's nice of Visa to catch up and say that, hang on a minute, using RFID cards and opening an app and all this, it's too confusing. There should be a standard system for EV charging. Ha! Welcome to the party, Visa. Anyway, they've decided to join the industry group as a full member, CHARIN, the Charging Interface Initiative. They are the ones that argue for the CCS protocol. Some say it's not a protocol, the CCS plug, if you like, and they're joining to offer their take, and that's a good thing. Visa, you're absolutely right. I think plug and charge will probably supersede that, as all cars come with plug and charge technology, and charging networks embrace that, so that you can just, with any car, turn up, plug in, walk away. I guess the back end handling has to be done though, and why not Visa getting involved in that? Our next luxury vehicle to talk about today is Bentley, and they're set to replace the Mulsanne as their range topper. They'll begin testing it later this year, and it'll be the priciest model in the lineup, according to CEO Adrian Hallmark. Well, it's likely to be the priciest. He was talking in the Autocar Business webinar, which was hosted yesterday, confirming that the EV will be set apart from the current lineup on pricing. Got a quote for you. He said, "Today, all of our products are in very tight price band, so I can say we would like to either go up or down to exploit the brand further in terms of potential." Now, I don't see Bentley all of a sudden going down market and making a cheaper car, so could be 2 and 2 equals 5 on this one. This could be a very, very expensive Bentley with all of the latest cutting-edge technology and big range going into this car. It's highly unlikely it'll be priced below the Bentayga, which is an SUV. That starts at 155, and the range tops out at 230. So this could well be a £250,000 starting price Bentley that is like the world's best EV, but still, holy moly, I better get saving. They said that the interior design was 95% signed off, the exterior 80 to 85% signed off, with some work still to do. What to watch online then? We'll go check out Bjørn Newland, his latest video. He's the Norwegian EV YouTuber, and he has a 1,000 kilometer challenge, as he calls it, that he does, and he tested the new made in China Model 3 rear wheel drive, what we used to call SR Plus. Now, my friend Richard Simons from RSEV did this video like 3 weeks ago. He went on a road trip with this car. It's got the 60 kilowatt hour LFP battery, and he said it's a range monster. Absolutely brilliant. Very, very highly efficient. Great with thermal management. You can charge it to 100%. Indeed, these LFP cells want to be charged to 100%. And he said, look, for road trips, buy that. Like, it's such good value compared to a long range that you're only meant to charge to 90%. Buy that version, and it charges really quickly as well, and you get almost as much mileage out of it. Well, in Bjørn's video, a bit different to Richard's. He did 10 hours and 5 minutes. They do 1,000 kilometers, and it's almost the same as the results achieved previously in very, very warm temperatures with the old standard range SR Plus cars. So amazing, really. They've really got the, I reckon, BMS, software, etc., for the LFP chemistry sorted. I would say, I don't think they had it sorted when they started making those cars, because I had listeners of the podcast in cold climates saying to me, hey, look, I'm plugging in and getting like 8 or 10 kilowatt charge speed. What the heck's going on? I mean, cold soaked batteries, ones that have been left out overnight or 2-3 days not used. I don't hear those reports anymore. So I think that was the first month those vehicles were out. I think Tesla have sorted it, from what I can tell. Bjørn noted the new Tesla Model 3, the entry level, has outstanding thermal management, has a slightly bigger battery than the old one, 5 kilowatt hours more usable. I'll pop a link to Inside EVs where you can watch that in the show notes. And finally, if you have a BMW i4, get hold of your dealer, because it's got to go back. It might be involved in a recall. Cars made between September and November last year may not have the battery crash pads fitted. I think we're talking 12-volt battery here. So they have had a recall put out for the i4. If that's you, give your dealer a call. Well, thank you very much for watching the show today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Was it a long one? I've lost track of time. Oh, goodness me. Yes, it was. Sorry about that. I've waffled for too long today. If you want this version, you want this podcast as an audio version, so, you can take me wherever you go. Get me in your ears by having a look at the Apple or Google or Spotify or your favorite podcast app and the feed. Hit subscribe, and that way, whether you want to watch this show or listen to the audio, you've got it everywhere. And Patreon, check it out. If you don't want to, you don't need to. But if you want to have a look, I'd invite you to see Patreon, patreon.com/EV News Daily. It's how we fund this show and how you fund the work that I do. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you soon.